Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is an interview special with one of the top football broadcasters around. You'll see him and his work on ESPN. It's Sam Tighe. Today, we're going to talk about that Arsenal win, Villa's overall performance through the season, XG and all, and we see where the squad can potentially improve. But firstly, Sam, it's great to have you back on All Villa, No Filler.
Yes, nice one, mate. I was just looking at our last chat together, mostly to take the notes for what we're going to talk about today. And it's been 4 months. Goodness me, where does the time go? We've not yet made it to a Villa game together this season, which is a big shame as well, as my cat destroys the entire studio. And hopefully we can fix that soon.
Yeah, completely. There's a fair few games to come, of course. But one of the big games I think we both wish we'd been at was the Arsenal win over the weekend, that 2-1. I mean, yes, we're recording on Tuesday. It's a couple of days since, but I mean, what did you make of that win?
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice to look back on it, hasn't it? It's one of those wins and one of those moments and one of those goals that will stick in the memory for quite some time. And fair play to the Villa social media team. They're really, really milking it, because every time I open something up on my phone, I've either got sent a video or it just pops up on my Instagram. They're finding new angles, new slow-mo ways of showing you pretty much everything that happened. Just before we came on, I was looking at the Emi Martinez save in what must have been, a 100th speed. It was they're doing an amazing job of celebrating what is well worth celebrating, because that was a really big win. And there were some caveats, of course. We know that Arsenal were a bit under strength at the time, and we can get into that a little bit, I'm sure. But overall, to see Aston Villa pushing and pushing and pushing and going for it and saying, no, we're not settling for the point. We're going to go and win this game. We can sense that Arsenal were flagging. Let's get this done. And then to do it with the last kick of the game, it's pretty much storybook stuff, which doesn't tend to happen to Villa too much.
No, there's been a lot of that in the last year. PSG at home, that comeback. And I remember when we scored the third, I was in the stadium and we're all looking around at each other in childlike disbelief. And it's the kind of thing that only happens at Liverpool and Man United, not Villa. And then again, to score last second kick of the game against top of the league and arguably the best team in Europe right now. Again, it's the type of thing that we're not used to as Villa fans, me and you at least, we get to live through the 82 glory years. But, it's another win for Emery over Mikel Arteta. He's had a fair few of them now. Did he tactically outsmart him at the weekend?
Yes, he's got a good record, hasn't he, against him? There's a lot of people that say that this game seems to mean more to him. And I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know if you disagree with that or agree with that. But for me, Emery he seems so methodical and scientific in the way he goes about just football in general that I don't actually necessarily think that too many fixtures stick out to him. Yes, he came back to the Premier League with a point to prove, but I don't think it was against Arsenal. I think it was to the Premier League as a whole. And he's certainly proved that point over the last 3 years. So well done. I don't know if he outsmarted him, because again, there are some caveats that apply here. The game plan was brilliant though. And the way Villa used their midfield to disorientate Arsenal's kind of man-to-man press was absolutely brilliant. And for the last 3 years, when Saka and Odegaard are in the team and on the pitch for Arsenal, their pressing of opponents' goal kicks has been second to none. Their ability to take those situations and turn them into throw-ins or turnovers high up, amazing. And there were a couple of occasions where they got it done. But for the most part, Villa were able to actually use that against Arsenal really well, in a way that they basically tried and failed to at Anfield in that one frustrating loss in the last 10, where insisting on playing through the press but just getting it wrong. Whereas Arsenal, it worked out brilliantly. And the midfielders were kind of moving in a quite a strange way. Tielemans was starting high and then dropping a bit deeper. And then Rodgers was kind of moving in to that narrow position and opening up different lanes. And in the end, Villa managed to chip it over Arsenal's press or beat Arsenal's press pretty consistently and get a 2v1 on Zubimendi, having taken Declan Rice completely out of the game. And that led to a lot of those kind of transitional attacks where then one pass fed Ollie Watkins, one pass fed Daniel Marlon. And it was excellent. And what you just need at the end of there is a bit of execution. And then, of course, at the other end, a bit of goalkeeping magic and defensive solidity too. I will say, though, so Arsenal's lack of composure throughout this game was quite astonishing.
Yeah, it was.
Villa had more of this game than they probably should have on paper. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is obviously losing Gabriel and Saliba. The two first choice centre backs, they're very, very good. Arsenal's set piece threat wasn't what it should have been, mostly because Gabriel wasn't there. So Villa were able to handle that pretty easily. It should have been a more difficult day. And by the 75th minute, a lot of these guys were absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
Now, that's not as much of a caveat because I personally was sat there thinking, why is Declan Rice still on this pitch? Like, he limped off against Brentford 3 days before. He's in a walking boot, wasn't he? Arteta said in the press conference afterwards, "Oh yeah, he's fine. He can walk." And all the fans were like, "Well, I wasn't worried about whether he could walk, but now I am." And then he played, 96 minutes. He was gassed. He was absolutely gassed. And like Christian Norgard was sat on the bench. I was thinking, why are you not making changes? So well done to Emery there for just like sensing that chance, because he could have sat there and gone, "Oh, we'll just take a draw." But he was watching what I was watching, and he was looking at Rice. Rice was just head left, head right, just watching the ball go past him. Just had nothing left in the tank. Could barely raise energy to lift his foot. And Nkapie was the same. That's why he ran the ball out of play at the end that led to the sequence for the goal. They were exhausted.
Yeah,
absolutely knackered. It's been a big 2 weeks for them. And they played the North London derby, then they played Bayern Munich, then they played Chelsea, then they played Brentford, and then they played like that. But Villa played the same number of fixtures.
Yeah.
Just used the squad a lot better. So well done to Emery there.
And that really is what Emery's a master of, isn't it? Use of the squad, and why he's done so well in Europe in the past is my theory, and also managed to maintain his teams qualifying for Europe through the league whilst also going so deep in European competition. And also at the end of this month, when we play Arsenal on the 30th of December, I think it is, I think they have a Carabao Cup game with Palace. So they have 4 games again in 10 days.
Oh, that stupid fixture they had to squeeze in.
Yeah, 23rd of December. And then they've got, I mean, it's all at home, I think, but they've got 4 games this one, like 10 games. So again, when they come to play Villa, they'll have had a long run of games where maybe Declan Rice turns up and he's just not quite as fit as he would be were it, at a different stage of the season.
20th, 23rd, 27th, 30th, 3rd of January.
Tough. Woo! Yep. Tough. Yeah. Another opportunity for Villa potentially. But so that's 15 games of the season gone. So essentially it's that third tranche of 5 games. And, something that's been talked about a lot this season with Villa, XG. A lot of our goals coming from outside the box. Do you have any concerns about the sustainability of Villa being able to keep that up? Or has what you saw against Brighton and Arsenal, and the fact so many of those goals came in the area, has that actually sort of soothed any concerns you might have had?
Yeah, I definitely had concerns. There's been 2 camps on this. There's been a lot of neutrals or outsiders or just data guys pointing at Villa's underlying statistics and going, "It's not going to. You can't carry on like this." And then, of course, there's been that natural rebuttal from Villa fans to say, "Well, hang on a minute," which is it's fine. It always happens, and you always want to defend your own. What didn't help, I thought, this was Unai Emery effectively intimating after which game was it? Couple of weeks ago, whichever one it was. It was the Wolves game when Boubacar Kamara scored a 20-yard left footer. I mean, that's never going to happen again. He sort of intimated that Villa had been training long shots as a weapon to use against deep blocks. So maybe just accepting there that the creativity levels against deep blocks aren't good enough and possibly can't get to where he wants to be. So resorting to other avenues and sort of suggesting that it was tactical that Villa were scoring so many goals from long range. But the fact remains is that there's a reason that these shots are low percentage and low on the XG, because they are difficult to score. And there were a couple of moments against Wolves where, like, you see Tielemans where he took that 3-step run up from 40 yards and just smashed one straight into Johnston's gloves. I was thinking, I think this actually is tactical, but I can't really get behind the idea that it's a good idea. You shouldn't really be trying to score like this consistently, but it has got Villa through basically 5 games worth of wins, so it has kind of worked. But yeah, there's 3 sets of 5 games here that we can break Villa's season down into. So the first 5 games, which we don't like to think about very much because they were terrible, no wins, 3 draws, scored 1 goal, so at a 0.6 points per game record. The expected goals difference over that period, so the expected goals minus your expected goals against, was minus 4.66, and Villa were 19th in the XG differential table in the league after 5 games, which tracked, right? We were all watching them and thinking, good God. Then there's the middle 5 games. So we're going to remove the first 5 games from the sample and just look at the next 5 games, if my cat will let me. 13th in the league on XG differential over the middle 5 games, a minus 0.8 XGD. But at this point, getting 2.4 points per game. So still in a minus XG differential, but now tracking at a rate that's level with City and second only to Arsenal in terms of points per game. That's where the long shots are happening, right? So the first 5 was solid defense, no creativity, no goals. The next 5 is solid defense, no creativity, long shots. Then you get the final 5 games, which you've just completed with Arsenal. 9th in the XGD table, plus 0.85. We're in positive territory, finally. 3 points per game, won every single game. Best record in the league. But the underlyings aren't as good as you think they would be, because while the creativity has stepped up and the goals have started happening, the defense has kind of caved in a bit.
Yeah, right.
Like shipping those goals to Brighton, conceding 1.6 XG to Leeds and 1.9 to Arsenal means that it doesn't yet look like Villa are playing in a dominant fashion, but they are winning every game. So at no point this season have Villa actually managed to put it all together. At various different points in those sets of 5 games, Villa have either had a strong defence or a good goal-scoring threat or strong levels of creativity, but at no point has any of it really married up. So I'm not really sure what to take from that, other than there has been a little bit of fortune that, despite not marrying it all together, the results have got over the line. But what's really important to look at here is just as the point where everybody was saying regression's going to hit Villa, they can't get away with this for much longer. They just can't, and they were probably right. Or just at that point, Villa started creating chances. And they put together an amazing creative performance against Brighton and a really, really good one against what is the best team in the Premier League in Arsenal. And it wasn't too bad against Leeds either. So finally, shots on targets, chances created, big chances are on the rise. So I like to believe that regression discussion can just be filed away, back of the cabinet. It could have bitten Villa, but Villa sorted it out just at the right time and basically got away with it just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating, that, isn't it? Like the numbers have been... It's just really, really bizarre to think that Villa have defied the odds essentially in this way. I'd love to know if there's any teams in history that have ever done something as similar as us for that.
All through those periods, by the way, something at Villa has been working. So either the defense is good or the finishing is good or it's not all bad. I'm not trying to paint it like that. But Villa have always been compensating for something.
Yeah. And
the one thing you can't compensate for over a very long period of time there is if you're not creating good chances, you will not continue to score good goals or enough goals. But Villa have just about nipped it in time and kind of fixed that by the looks of it before it really started to bite them.
Oh, good. It's great to hear that. And I mean, at the start of this season, of course, we talked about, we did our sort of prediction show looking ahead to players, and obviously it's the players who play these games, the last 15 games, and obviously some of them have starred, some of them haven't necessarily done so. Harvey Elliott being one name, perhaps.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. But at the start of the season, sort of back in early August, we had our kind of predictions for how players would perform this season, and we had players who would make big steps, rising baller, stay the same, slight drop and falling, and also they are done. Now, there's some interesting things to look back on here. So I'll get that up now, what we chose.
So this is what we did in August.
Yep.
Yeah, this is what we did in August. Everyone, don't judge us.
Yeah, do not judge us for actually, some of it's pretty, I think, doing all right, actually. But there's one in particular, one galling one, which we'll we should probably start on, to be honest, I reckon. Yeah. For me, look, I think the player that surprised everybody at Villa Park this season is Emi Buendia, isn't it? We had him as they are done in early August. It looks like he'd probably be on his way to Leeds. He'd had 4 seasons at Aston Villa. He'd been on loan to Leverkusen last year, hadn't gone brilliantly. He'd had that knee injury for a year. So,
for those listening, by the way, the players in the they are done category: Alex Moreno, Leander Dendoncker, Samuel Illing Jr., Leon Bailey, and Emi Buendia. So they are mostly done.
Yeah.
But one of them was able to rise from the ashes somehow and defy all of our expectations, and that's little Emmy.
I mean, what do you make of him? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly didn't see this coming. If any of you did, I don't believe you. It seemed like Villa were more than happy to part ways with Buendia over the course of the summer. I mean, technically everybody was for sale because of the financial situation, but Buendia was on the fringes, back off that loan, didn't do too much, had basically done 2-0 years thanks to an injury. And it looked like a bit of a sad end, but he's played 18 games for Villa in the Premier League and the Europa League this season. He's played 800 minutes, which is more than Ian Maatsen. It's more than Marlon. It's more than Tielemans, mostly due to injury. And I do like to use minutes played as a very simple but effective way of looking at players and judging, how important they feel to the team. In some cases, like Tielemans' injury is going to really have an effect on that. But for Buendia to play more minutes than Ian Maatsen, and they've both been fit the entire time, that speaks to something I just didn't see coming, which was that Buendia would not only be, clinging onto the fringes of the squad, but it's been really important. He scored some really important goals, some beautiful goals. Feyenoord, and Spurs.
Yeah.
But also obviously this moment against Arsenal as well, which we'll never forget. So incredibly well done from him. Like the determination levels of this guy just didn't want to close the chapter on his Villa career, just forced his way into the reckoning. All right, sometimes he still comes up with a pretty rough half, and it wasn't that. It was only a couple of weeks ago that he started and came off after about 55 minutes because he'd just been completely anonymous. But you need game changers on the bench. You need moments players, and that's him. He's carved out his role.
Exactly, and it's easy to forget that his first appearance of the season, I think, was Brentford away, where he was subbed on and subbed off. I mean, the turnaround in his form is just incredible. And sometimes players just need a moment themselves, and they can build from there. And it feels like that might be what's happened with Buendia, as well as his hard work and attitude as well. But looking around that squad now, who else sticks out to you from what we called earlier in August?
So moving up a couple of tiers here into the slight drop. We put 3 players into the slight drop category. So we figured that they would slope off just a little bit. Not much, but they probably peaked. Tyrone Mings and Luca Dean are in there. And I would say that's about right still. I think Dean has been about 85%, 80% of what he can be. And Tyrone's not had a great season, obviously, and is injured again. But is that John McGinn's face in there, I can see?
Yeah, it is.
I don't think he's dropped off.
No.
I don't think he's dropped off at all. He's been incredible for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked really tired at the start of the season, just like everybody else, just really slow and a bit ploddy. And maybe for the first 6 weeks we were right there, but he's worked through it, delivered an amazing performance on his 300th game, and has just been ferocious once again. I've been emulating him at football. I was doing it last night. I did two John McGinn turns. Using my rear guard, and absolutely flummoxed 2 different people to the point where one of them came up to me afterwards and was like, "How did you do that?" I watch John McGinn every week.
Yeah. The importance of using the large derriere as McGinn does, and using your body, it's such an underrated skill. It's really, really difficult to do it. And you're right. I mean, it's easy to forget as well. The start of the season when Villa were doing really badly, we got that win against Bologna. John McGinn scored it, and then Fulham at the weekend. If you remember, John McGinn scored that absolute screamer into the bottom corner. Again, it was, and then I think he created another goal against Feyenoord. So he really was. If you were to say it was an individually, it felt like dragged us through that difficult spell. I'd say John McGinn was probably it.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the others really weren't it, were they? So we'll get to them in a bit. But yeah, someone like Morgan Rogers wasn't helping anybody at that point.
No. I mean, any other players there that stick out though?
So that's it for that tier. And then we move up again into stay the same, which is obviously where we put the majority of players. Like, you're not going to expect huge movements from too many players up or down. In the stay the same tier, we've got Emmy, we've got Bizot. We didn't know what to do with him, did we? Yeah. We've got Torres, Konsa, Cash, Yuri, Barkley, and JJ. Obviously, JJ's gone. I think a lot of those are holding up, but
Hmm.
I think that Cash is playing his best ever football.
Definitely.
And so he has not stayed the same. He has gone up one or at least one level, maybe two.
Yeah.
Like he has been, again, the first 5 game weeks of the season where almost no one was good aside, he's been phenomenal. And he did score the first goal of the season in the league, at least against Sunderland, with an absolute screamer. He keeps scoring. He's on corners now. He's like Trojan horse himself into like one of the most important roles in this team.
I like that, the Trojan horse. It's right. And I think partly maybe his form with Poland has helped him as well. You know, he got a screamer against the Netherlands, didn't he? And he's got a couple of goals for Poland this season. And he had a shaky start to the season, maybe a bit of a hangover from the United mistake he made at the end of last season. But from about game week 3 onwards, honestly, as you say, I'd put him in the big steps category. I think he's been just phenomenal this season.
Genuinely, I think he looks like right now he looks like twice the player he was last season. So I think he'd be vaulting all the way up. Yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And it was, again, like, the contrast is incredible because it was his terrible cross against Newcastle that led to the counter-attack that got Ezri sent off.
Yeah.
Like, it's come a long way in like 3 months from the absolute nadir to what is now the best football I've seen him ever play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was at the Wolves game, and I was actually front row for it, so I was right by Cash and McGinn on that side, about meters away. And I like sitting there sometimes just to see it right up close. And it's funny watching Cash and always thinking like, yes, he cuts back and all that, but like it's just the ball retention it's excellent. Like
he's got way better at that. He's got way better at that. I don't think he's the most phenomenal passer out of those tight spots. But then again, when you sit that close, it really hammers home how like difficult it is when you're backed up against the touchline and you've got like 2 players blocking passing lanes, how to get out of those scenarios, and like how good your touch has to be, how quick the ball has to move. Like when you actually sit there and watch it, you're like, these guys are phenomenal. Like I remember the old Spurs stadium, well, the White Hart Lane, as it's called. The press box was like basically front row. It was right behind the dugout. And I used to go there a fair bit at the time, and I used to watch Carl Walker on the sideline in those tight spots, and I used to think, bloody hell, that is how are you doing this? It's incredible.
It's incredible. And Conser always comes back as that option for him to pass to when he needs it as well. The way they're all in sync together is phenomenal. And just watching him as well, and watching players trying to get past him and they weren't really able to do it. It was
defensively really strong. Is there anybody in that category you'd move up?
Pau Torres. I think Pau Torres is, I'd say he's probably returned to the form of 2 years ago. So maybe it's a return, but I'd call him a rising baller. Is that fair to say? Only because I think since Pau Torres came back into the team against Fulham, Villa have been a team transformed. And I think the form that we've had since then, it's probably not a coincidence that since Pau came in and our ball playing from the back, as a result, has improved so exponentially. I think Pau, arguably for me, is player of the season so far, because he's defensively, I think he's a lot better than he was last season.
And I agree on the defensive side. Yeah, he's stronger, I think. Yeah.
But would you put him up?
Season? I think so. Yeah, I think I'd nudge him up one tier for sure. Compared to last season, he's been phenomenal. He probably is at the same level on the ball as he was in the first season. I think he's probably a little bit better defensively than he has ever been for Villa. And he was the catalyst. He was the catalyst for this to turn around. As much as McGinn scoring goals and stuff like that was important, just the ability to retain the ball for like more than 2 minutes, which just was completely absent before Pau. That's enough for me. Yeah, I think it's very fair to put him upwards.
Yeah, for sure. Now we step into the rising baller category. What do you think of this?
Yeah, so the next 2 categories are the positive or the projected positive steps. These are the players that we thought we were going to get better and better, or much better. And I think there's quite a lot of names to talk about here. So in this category, the first face I can see is Lamar Bogard.
I love him. I
mean, he's great now, isn't he? He's just great.
So good. He's so good.
I'm at risk of becoming a bit of a meme of myself because I talk about him so much. and I shower him with compliments to the point where like it's clearly ridiculous to be talking about Lamar Bogard this much. And if people ever took me super seriously about what I say about him, like how he's like twice the player that Camara will ever will be, and like the Lord and Savior of Aston Villa's midfield, the next great Dutch footballer, like obviously none of this is really true. But the reason I'm saying it is because I'm excited about how good he looks.
Yeah.
He's a victory for coaching. I think he's emblematic of the idea that Emery can take players and make them better, which is becoming a bit of a lost art in the modern game, where every time a team needs something, they just chuck 50 million pounds at the position and, you know, see what they can do, rather than just look inwards and go, well, have I got anyone that I can maybe improve? All these teams spend so much time and effort and money poaching each other's best players out of their academies. It only makes sense to give them a go and try to train them and coach them and improve them, and then maybe put them in the team and see what they can do. And again, Lamar Bogard is a great example of what can happen if that happens, because you watch him play and he's got a bit of Conser in him. He's got a bit of Camera in him. He's got a bit of McGinn in him as well. Like, he's been stealing traits from the players around him for the last 2 years in training and putting them into his own game, and he just looks like a completely different player to what he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, he does.
And you think like the swap that Villa have effectively made in the last 18 months is that they took, you know, they said goodbye to Tim Irabunum and just put Bogard in his position. And Bogard is like so much better than Tim.
Yeah.
At so many things, it's crazy. So Villa have quietly got a very good one here. And need to continue to find ways to get him on the pitch wherever possible. As many starts on Thursdays as possible. Like, we're at a point now where like he has to play minutes, because we have to start genuinely like continuing to get him into the team. There's only so much you can learn from training. He is ready. He's played like 600 minutes. Great. I want that to be like 2,000 by the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I went to the Burnley game where he started, and he was just phenomenal. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant performance, and his understanding of, you know, when he's facing Emi Martinez and he receives the ball, the players that are behind him, his understanding and awareness of what's behind him and what space he can turn into. For that age, I think it's such a skill to have that. He's looking really good, and obviously Brighton linked to him as well.
That's funny, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they must have been really impressed with that cameo. Wow.
Yeah. Proper. Yeah, it's funny that we would do a Brighton 2 Brighton, you know, where we would find the younger players for that. But other players were mentioned in there as well. Andres Garcia's another one.
Who?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, there was nothing to say about him. Like, has he played a single minute of football?
No.
No.
He was injured for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So you never know. Maybe this season he'll come good. But
and then we have Camara. So at the start of the season, we were expecting Camara to get a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that is justified by his goal contributions tally alone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been same old. Brilliant Boubacar Camara, super consistent, almost always the best player on the pitch for Villa, in the most boring way possible, but just is. And has also, how many goal contributions has he got? Boubacar Camara 5.
Yeah.
How has that happened?
Technically an assist against Arsenal as well.
Yeah, I think some of these are a bit fudgy. Like, I think he passed Cash the ball for the Sunderland goal.
Right. Okay.
For example, so like take it with a pinch of salt. Maybe his expected assist is quite low. Let's have a look. 1.04 with 4 assists. So yeah, it's freakish. It's freakish. But he is getting into the box more, the attacking box more. He is getting more involved in that attacking play, I think, without neglecting any of his defensive responsibilities. And yeah, just continues to be the heartbeat of the team, really. It's just so good.
Yeah, he's just a phenomenal player. I keep saying he looks like a Real Madrid player playing for Aston Villa, and I think he probably is, to be honest. I'm amazed France haven't done more with him. Daniel Marlin.
They got some good players, mate.
Well, to be fair, yeah.
It's Camavinga and Chouameni and all sorts. So yeah, it's. I mean, those guys like play for Real Madrid.
that is true. You make a good point. Yeah. But we move on to Daniel Marlin. Wow.
Yeah. So expecting something a bit more from him. I struggled. What had he actually done last season?
He'd got
goal against Forest.
Yeah, Brighton goal as well. I think he'd got 1 or 2 goals, but it wasn't like didn't exactly tear up trees over there.
Yeah, I think it was quite an easy selection, wasn't it, to say that he'd probably do a bit more and get a bit better. And he has 742 minutes Premier League and Europe. He's also played in 20 games,
Right.
which is the maximum you can play across these two competitions so far for Villa. The only other two players that have played in all 20 games are Watkins and Morgan Rogers.
Right.
So the three attackers have played in every single game. Obviously, Matson's only started 7. Sorry, Marlon's only started 7. So it's not calling him a key player, but he gets on the pitch every single time, which is always an indicator to me that Emery has multiple uses for him. Emery is happy to rely on him. Emery trusts him. For the same reason he's happy to bring Bogard on to see a game out of the Amex. He's happy to bring Marlon on pretty much no matter what the circumstances in a variety of positions, which it bodes very well for him. I wish that we could combine Marlon and Watkins into one player because everything that Ollie does off the ball, all the runs, all the positioning stuff is brilliant, but he's just not a natural, like instinctive finisher. He's a mechanical, practiced finisher, and you can tell really sometimes he could just do with hitting it half a second earlier through the laces and just see what happens, which is what Marlon does, and he gets loads of goals from it.
Yeah.
He just whacks it.
There's such a hit on him, doesn't he? He's a really
Yeah.
strong shot. Standing next to him, we have Ollie Watkins as a rising baller.
I remember us disagreeing on this.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced. I think I was, because there were a couple of split decisions, weren't they, between us?
Yeah.
And we had to mediate them one way or another. And not to throw you under the bus, but you were really big on Ollie having a full preseason, weren't you? And having a really good start to the year. And I think I was a little bit more sour on that. Not to say that I expected him to look quite as poor as he has done for a lot of the season.
It's been a real struggle for him. And I guess like the recent news, about his knee, his supposed knee injury he's got, and he's missed training sessions over the last year. It has to have had an impact on him, you'd think.
You'd think so, yeah. I think genuinely, so over the course of the 20 games, I know he's really perked up in the last week or so. The Brighton performance was really good, and the mechanics of the Arsenal performance are really good, except for the finishing. So that's really positive. But overall for the season, I'd say that he would be dropping like 3 categories here. Yeah. And we left the category falling completely blank in August. But right now he would be in that one for me.
Yeah.
Which is horrible to say, but it's representative of kind of what's happened. Last week or so has been really encouraging. It needs to stay at that level now, at a bare minimum, because Villa have effectively won games almost in spite of Watkins at certain points this season, particularly during the middle 5 games when basically just resorted to long shots. And there's a reason for that, unfortunately.
And that was the point, Aston Villa weren't really scoring goals inside the box. And it was like, well, if we're going to do that, we need our striker to start scoring. And thankfully, he got those Brighton goals and he did well against Arsenal. And I guess one thing you could say is if you look at the first 5 games of the season, if you were to say who was falling, Morgan Rogers could be put in that category because Rogers was, to be honest, dreadful in those first 5 games. But he found his way back. He got that assist against Burnley. Then from there, it's just gradually got better and better to now looking, exceptional again, I think.
I mean, like with Cash, I think this is the best Morgan Rogers has ever played.
Yeah, I agree.
Like what he's been doing over the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks or so has been like absolutely astonishing. I've never seen him attempt so many nutmegs in my life. He had a lack of confidence in the first 5 games, but right now it's steaming off him. Like he'll try anything. And some of the runs, the run into the box against Arsenal, where he basically beat 3 players over the course of 10 seconds, was amazing. There was the run against Brighton where he was in the next to Maatsen in the corner, up the line, back down the line, back up the line again, turn inside, probably beat 3 or 4 more players. And there was a move right at the start of the Leeds game where he just somehow retained the ball for like 15 seconds on his own. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And And obviously the goals and assists are coming too, which is great. His strike against Spurs was remarkable.
And Leeds as well.
And Leeds, yeah, the free kick was absolutely superb. But really, like the goals are important. Yes, he needs to chip in, but like just watch him play, and you're just like, this guy's on another level right now. He just looks in a completely different class to basically everybody else on the pitch.
Yeah, and it was unimaginable for a long time that you'd think Jude Bellingham would have any competition for his England players whatsoever. You just assumed he was going to be the man. But the way Rodgers is playing, it's like, wow. It's like Thomas Tuchel actually does have a genuine decision to make here. And who'd have thought that, Jude Bellingham from Birmingham, Morgan Rodgers from Hales Owen, these two players came from so close together in the Midlands. Amazing, really. But you're exactly right about Rodgers. He really is he's the difference maker right now as well in a lot of games. I think he's just the player who can do something that you wouldn't expect. But other players we had...
Sorry, quickly, the first 5 games of the season, Villa were giving him the ball in those positions, and it was just bouncing off him.
Yeah, it was terrible.
He was just losing the ball constantly. And I looked it up. I don't have the stat to hand, but I did look it up the other day. And like over the first 5 weeks of the season, I think only Mohamed Kudus lost the ball more times than Morgan Rodgers. And those Kudus ones are mostly just him crossing the ball, because all Spurs were doing were just crossing. So obviously when you cross the ball and it goes out of play or whatever, you lose the ball. Where Rodgers, there weren't crosses. It was like he was being tackled, dispossessed, bad touch, bounced off him, missed pass. It was really awful to watch. Nothing's really changed, except for the fact that now that when Villa pass the ball to Rodgers in that area, he beats 3 players and puts it on a plate for someone. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that really does explain some of the uptick for Villa, which is just like, this guy has gone from playing at like 1 out of 10 relative level for him to the best he's ever played.
Yeah. And it also shows, that maybe that first 5-game spell will actually end up being good for his career, in the sense of he's shown he can come back from adversity, and if he ever finds himself in that spell again, he knows he can get out of it.
He's played the most minutes for Villa this season.
Yeah.
So usually a goalkeeper's top of that, but obviously Martinez has missed a few games, and then typically you're probably expecting like the centre back to play the most minutes. Like Virgil van Dijk will always be second on the list for Liverpool, but it's Rodgers, 1,666, more than anyone else. Constance on about 1.5, Cash is on 1.5, McGinn's on 1.360. Yeah, Rodgers is just played and played and played.
I think, because that's the thing. It's like, I think even if Aston Villa tomorrow decided they're going to take on London Lions FC, who I play the Villa London group, I think they'd put the under-10s out.
Yeah.
But then I still think Unai, for some reason, will play Morgan Rodgers for the whole game when they're like 15-0 up. You're like, you don't need more Rodgers on anymore, mate. Come on.
Yeah. I was messing around last week for when the lineup came out for the young boys game, and Rodgers was playing, and I was just like, of course he's playing. And I was doing the Unai meme, Unai Emery, draw 25 or rest Morgan Rodgers. There's Unai with 25 cards. So he will never, ever, ever rest him.
No, Rodgers is never getting a break, ever. But there were 2 other players we had in the big steps category: Ian Maatsen and Amadou Onana. What do you make of that?
So not so far. No, they haven't made the big steps. I would say that Onana has had a really good season when fit, and I would put him 1 tier down. But I think clearly he is improving, so it's still a positive. And I think recently, since he's returned from that weird 1-month injury, I think he's been like basically perfect, used really well. I know that he's not. Some people don't love what he brings to the table a lot of the time, and I think it's a very fair comment to make when you say, well, does he actually fit into Villa's best 11? And of course, the answer to that is depends, because the Arsenal game, Tielemans, Camara, Onana, all played. However, that alignment doesn't need to be used for all games. So it's a mix and match scenario, but the threat he carries at set pieces, the importance he has in defending set pieces, and just like the general like amount of ground that he can cover on his own is remarkable.
Yeah.
And in this era of really physical man-to-man pressing in midfield that all Premier League teams are doing, you just need players like Onana who just feel like cheat codes, because they can withstand the pressure and they can apply the pressure and they can cover a ridiculous amount of ground on their own, which makes everyone's life so much easier with those long legs. So I think he's continuing to improve. I just wouldn't say he's made big steps, but that might be injury related. And then Maatsen, you know, Unai always turns to Luca Dean to start with and gives and says, I think he always says it's Luca's role to lose. And Maatsen will get the Thursdays. He'll get a chance here and there. Dean can't play 2 games in a week. So Maatsen will always get an opportunity, and it's about seizing it. And I mean, it took up until March last year for Maatsen to basically steal his spot. Maybe April. It was quite late in the season, but Maatsen took it. Has he taken it already? Has he just stolen it in December? Because he started the last 2 games. So will Luca Dean play on Thursday? You know, and
it helps that you've got 2 of the best left backs going, I suppose, competing with each other. But yeah, I guess with Ian Maatsen as well, you know, the fact that he was trusted to play that, you know, pretty much a full game against Brighton and then play against Bukayo Saka as well, like that is a real sign, hopefully, that maybe Unai thinks he's a player who is close to making big steps. Would you have him in the rising baller category yet, though?
Probably, yeah, based on how well he's done in the last week. Because but those are the only notable games I really have to go on, because a lot of his work on Thursdays has been against, like, no disrespect to them, but just like garbage. You know, we've played a couple of games on Thursdays this season which have just been like the standard has been embarrassly bad from the opponent. Like when you compare it to like what even Burnley are able to give you in terms of a test, and then you go and play, it's just been really bad. It's been really hard to judge. But Minter has been one of the best wingers in the league this season. He is super fast, super dangerous, a really good crosser, and I think he's created like 28 chances or something for his strikers this season, which is really good. So to basically nullify him, and he did. That was what I thought was really impressed with that. And then to go again against Saka, and yeah, he got done on the outside a few times. It's Bukayo Saka. He's incredible. He's an elite footballer. You're not going to contain him fully for that entire game. But he did really well. Really, really well against him. Some back post defending there, Frankie, that I think we've been asking for a while.
And it's not just that as well. It's also his ability to get to the byline. You know, I think that's the thing he'll always have over Luca Dean, is he's just a bit better at that, and that speed at which he does it, but also the link up. Because I think when I talked about Jadon Sancho at the start of this season and what had happened with him at Dortmund and Man United, one thing he'd never had at United was what he had at Dortmund, and that was fullbacks bombing around him. You know, Hakimi, Guerrero, players like that at Dortmund. United didn't have that, and I just wondered, you know, with Sancho, could the presence of Ian Maatsen on the left with him being a player who overlaps and underlaps with him, could that bring out a side of him we've not seen yet really in English football? And maybe.
Well, I mean, look, yeah, I agree. Like, Maatsen is a great overlapping fullback. He's also a good underlapper. Basically, he just gets into the space behind the fullback one way or another, and he does it all the time. He times the runs really well. He's really quick. He's really clever. And once he gets to the byline, he is really dangerous. You need someone who can spot that run. And Rodgers can do it from left mid.
Yeah.
Sancho loves doing it. Like, Rodgers is more inclined to do something else. He's like, I can see the run, I could play it, but actually I've got better ideas. Whereas Sancho is like really obsessed with that pass. Really obsessed. If it's his favorite pass, it's his favorite run to pick out. It's what he wants to do. So the combination of them, it has the potential to grow if it can actually, you know, gain traction through the season. If Maatsen wins the starting job in the Premier League and Sancho doesn't, then they're going to be split apart. They're not going to play very much football together. So you just don't really know how that's going to work. But I mean, Maatsen scampers in behind Ben White on the weekend and nearly forces Jurriën Timber to score an own goal. And that's just one of about 5 different examples you could raise in the last 3 weeks of Maatsen doing something really, really impressive. Scoring, assisting, nearly assisting, whatever it is, from that zone. He's super dangerous there. The only questions have ever been about the defensive stuff. but I think it's improving. It looks to me like it's improving.
Yeah, definitely. The last couple of games, he looked defensively a lot more sure than I think he has at times. Like I remember when he came on against Arsenal last season at their place, and he had a real tough time of it. So certainly, it looks like hopefully he's getting to grips with being at Villa now. So that's generally what we were thinking at the start of this season. But I just wanted to bring something up. The tactical pad here. I've got Aston Villa squad up, and for those watching, you can also see I've got Arsenal's defence up, and I'll explain why in a second. But we're coming up close to January. Lord knows how much money we'll have to spend, what sort of restrictions we're still under. But if there's anywhere in this squad that you think, well, Villa to really be in a title charge here, is there anywhere in the squad that you think we just need a bit more there?
Villa are one centre-back injury away from a crisis.
Yeah.
And arguably one right-back injury away from a crisis too. That looks a lot to me like the defensive depth just is not there. Mings is either injured or just hasn't had the best season. And if you were to lose Torres, you lose a lot in terms of ball progression and circulation at the back. Konsa's the Iron Man. Lindelof's nowhere near as good as him. So the step down in quality from the front two is, the first choice two is pretty severe. Left back, you're good. That's okay. No problem. Goalkeeper, finally. Okay. If Emi Martinez drops out, then Villa have a goalkeeper that they can rely on. It can pass and stuff. It's good. And then, Cash. I mean, we've spent a lot of time praising him today, and rightly so. And if he were to get injured, it would be a minor disaster. I mean, Garcia has played no minutes. He's barely played since he's got to Villa. Yeah. Which we're coming up to 12 months. Like I don't know how many minutes he's played in the last year, but it's not many. And as much as he is intriguing and exciting, he is such a massive work in progress. And when you're playing for a team that is legitimately challenging now for a Champions League spot, and then maybe something else if things go well, is he good enough? I have no idea. Probably not, though. The answer is probably not. So what happens? Konsa's the right back? Like if Cash was injured and Villa had to play Newcastle, Garcia's not going in.
No. Bogard?
Konsa, Bogard. Yeah, Bogard. That's a good one, actually. It might have to be him. He doesn't always look that happy over there, but
no, he doesn't.
But most of the memories we have of Bogard playing right back are at the very start of last season.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree 15 months on, he's about 4 times as good as he was at football. So it might be that he is just a lot better there now. I know he's done it like 15 minutes here and there in the Europa League this season, but he never gets tested.
Yeah.
Like, that's not hard to play those games. So I don't know how it would look. So either a centre-back or a right-back is once again the situation going into January where I'm like, Villa needs to take a look at that. But, Villa have needed another right-back for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, the reason I had the Arsenal team up is just because I thought, well, this is what have Arsenal been doing in the recent years? And the case I've been trying to make a few times is that I think Arsenal, they competed with City and they looked at City, and for a while they were trying to play, City-style football. Not exactly the same, but they were trying to do something like it. But I think there was a sort of light bulb moment with Arteta where he thought, you just cannot win this league doing the City thing because City are just better than everyone else at it. So become a bit more Mourinho-ish, but a modern iteration of it, and build up that defensive solidity, and therefore have a load of defensive players that can play in a variety of roles. Because if you look at Arsenal's back line, I know they had a load of injuries the other day, but their Jurriën Timber went into the centre-back role and Hincapie came in. And Timber's is largely a right-back for them, who can also play midfield as well, but can go into centre-back. It's that sort of versatility. Calafiori, another player, plays at left back, goes charging up the pitch into the final third, plays centre back for Italy. That's what he did for Bologna. And then you look at that defensive line. You've got Ben White, can also play as centre back. He's their right back. Jurriën Timber right back. Saliba, Mosquera, Gabriel Hincapie, and Calafiori and Lewis Skelly are youth players come through. It's
every single player on that pitch except for Lewis Skelly can play centre back.
Yeah.
So that's 7 of them.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's not an ideal situation, but they have 3 absolute recognised centre backs with Gabriel Saliba and Mosquera. Hincapie is also a recognised centre back, but he's also very good at left back. So they have 3 players who can they've got 3 Champions League quality left backs. They've got 2 Champions League quality right backs, and they've got 5 Champions League quality centre backs with 2 more that can play if you need.
Yeah.
Whew.
Mad, isn't it? And I think that to me is an indication of what Villa possibly need to look at and think, if our squad is to have any kind of issue, it's probably going to be if one of our centre backs is missing. And I think if Arsenal are missing Gabriel and Saliba, they still have pretty strong players who can go in and play there. Whereas Villa, it's like we don't quite have that. Obviously, there's economic differences. Arsenal basically can pay for this, and Villa generally can't. But maybe Villa just need to look at players who can do a variety of roles at the back as well, if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Timber can play left back, right back, centre back. He can play all across. That's not a problem. So there's an example of someone who's a bit of a gadget player, really, that could just go wherever you want him to play, wherever you need him to play. So there's actually 4 Champions League quality left backs, not 3.
Mad, isn't it? Yeah.
Not 3. But this defensive unit that they have built up has been built up over a number of years.
Yeah.
It's also been supplemented by an academy product who is England national standard in Lewis Skelly. So this is careful scouting, this is steady spending, and this is just flat out good work over 3 or 4 years. And Arsenal have been in the Champions League for 3 or 4 years. They've had revenue streams in the Champions League for 3. This has allowed them to spend this kind of money on this depth of player.
Yeah,
because they have the financial capabilities of doing so. Outside of the stadium and the London effect and the merchandising, you've got Champions League revenue consistently. And the 3 years that Arsenal dropped out of the Champions League, which were basically the end of Wenger and into the Unai Emery era, they did not shop at this level and they did not buy these kind of players. It just wasn't happening. They were buying Sead Kolasinac and they were loaning Kim Kallstrom.
Yeah,
that might have been a different era, but you get the point.
Mustafi, players like
that. Sorry, but Arsenal have just been successful enough and smart enough to be able to build a team like that, and that should be what everyone aspires to. But the starting point is year-on-year Champions League football. It's just hard to catch up to because
it's
look
really
at
hard,
it.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Honestly, as much as Villa's defense is great, Arsenal's entire back 4 is better. First choice. It would walk into Villa's team. Gabriel is incredible. Saliba is even better. Timber is amazing. Calafiori is like 4 players rolled into one. They're a joke.
Yeah. It's but yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I thought if Villa are to get in a Champions League again, and if we wanted to compete for titles the next few years, I just thought that was interesting to look at what Arsenal have done and think, is this something Villa might essentially try and emulate at some point? But I guess one argument you make as well is that I think set in a central area in the centre midfield, and bear in mind as well, Bogard and Kamara can both play in defence as well as centre backs, so that we could bear that in mind as well. But central area is so strong at Villa. It's been a huge asset to us this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, needed it. Jeez. I've been through quite a lot of injuries in central midfield already this season, and there was definitely a period where Kamara, Onana, and Tielemans were out, and so it was like half-time in the Everton game, I think it was, maybe, because Kamara had come off against Brentford, and then Tielemans came off half-time against Everton, and it was like, what are we doing here? Is it McGinn Bogard?
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what it was, but McGinn was in there for a bit, and it's like, well, for that to be, tactic number 5, which involves McGinn, that's a great place to be. For him to be that low down on the centre midfield register, so to speak. It's not a comment on his quality. It's just the other lads are brilliant. That's a great place to be. Yeah, there's real depth in the centre, and that is really important for obvious reasons. But notably, Villa attack through the centre more than any team in the Premier League. Like, they generate more XG through the centre, the central column of the pitch, than any team. They take more shots than any team through the column. Everyone else really tends to either space it out nice, like 33% left, 33% middle, 33% right. Some teams will have a really heavy skew left or right, like Arsenal when it was White and Saka and Odegaard doing all the work. They'd have like a 45% skew over to the right. Villa are the most consistent central attacking team. So it's really important that the centre never looks totally soft.
Yeah. And striker, is that something we need to look to the future?
Yeah, but like, do we need to do like a whip round, or like,
Yeah.
like, do we need to raise some like Christmas charity aid?
Yeah.
I could put a few coins in the bucket if it will
Yeah.
help pay for another.
Yeah, do another Band-Aid song this time for Aston Villa. Yeah, it's,
Jeez, of
I've been
course the answer
contributing.
is yes, but of course the answer is also, have you got 35 million pounds plus?
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
always used to have this conversation about Watkins, and there were those that didn't rate him as much. There were those that did. Regardless, I think everybody was like, well, we could do with another one.
yeah,
But then the answer was always, well, do you have 20 million? No, we really don't. Nowadays, it's, do you have 35 million? Because you look at some of the strikers that have come into the Premier League in the last couple of years. So if you're looking for like, Brentford bought Thiago from Club Bruges for a club record 30 odd million. Who else was I just thinking of a second ago? Who else has come through? There's a few other players that have come into the league. Tieno Barry from Everton was not cheap. For a guy who is like, I think he could be quite a good player, but right now he reminds me of Yaya Sanogo half the time. So and that was a lot of money.
yeah.
So to get a player again, we come back to the phrase a lot. To improve this team is tough. This is a really good team. It's just won 9 out of 10 in the Premier League. Like, it's a good team. So inevitably, to buy a player that's good enough to play for it or to improve it, it's a hell of a lot of money. But I don't have a lot of that knocking around. Well, they do, but not allowed to spend it.
And compared to a lot of other clubs, the so-called big six, like, we can't afford to get it wrong as often as they would. So it's a different,
there's no margin for error, which I think unfortunately has led to Villa. Often, I mean, maybe it's Emery himself and his sort of stylistic preference, but I do feel like Villa have erred on the side of functional when it comes to their signings quite a lot of the time in the last few years. And Rodgers being a bit of an exception, but he was weirdly cheap, so go for it. But a lot of the guys that Villa have signed have ended up in like quite functional roles. Like McGinn is a very functional player, right? And then who comes in for him? Evan Gesson. And he can do step overs and he can dribble, but the stuff that Villa are asking Evan Gesson to do is quite functional. Onana is a very functional player. And I just wonder if these players are they have a higher floor, so they're quite a bit of a safer bet, but a clearly lower ceiling for obvious reasons. And so Villa are not in a place where they can go, that guy, the next Kendry Paez that that Chelsea happily pluck from the depths of Ecuador at 17 for 20 million and just roll the dice on him. Villa just cannot make that move. They just can't do it.
No, it's and as you say, if Chelsea get it wrong, doesn't matter to them, does it? It's just slightly different sport. Sometimes
try again. Send to Strasbourg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But just to quickly wrap it up, obviously we've got a fair few games this month. We've got Bale away next, West Ham away at the weekend, United at home, Chelsea and Arsenal away at the end of December. How are you feeling about this month? Do you think we can, the emotional highs of Arsenal, can we follow it up?
Yes, it's a tough month. But I mean, I look at every single fixture in the Premier League nowadays and just go, I do like a big like an intake of breath. And in my WhatsApp group with my boyhood, childhood friends for the last 30 years, they're always putting bets on and they always say, Sam, Villa win this weekend? And I always say no. And we've won 9 of 10. Get a grip, but it just feels so challenging. The Premier League these days, West Ham away, theoretically on paper, it should be easy, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be. And then this run of United, Chelsea into Arsenal, it's pretty treacherous. It's pretty bad. So we'll see. A lot of these games, so this is the general, so the United, Chelsea, Arsenal is the dreaded Christmas period. It's the 21st, the 27th, and the 30th. All sorts of weird stuff goes on here, like hamstrings go, calves ping, suspensions will kick in for all of the teams. honestly, I genuinely believe that the Christmas period is like a bit of a lottery, because it's like there's no turnaround time, there's no prep time. It's such an awkward time of the year for people, and the weather gets really cold and the suspensions pile up, and you could have a plan, but that plan just gets blown out of the water. So I'll just do the usual thing and say I'd take 4 points from United, Chelsea, and Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 of them away from home. I think Stamford Bridge will be really tough. Villa seem uniquely positioned to lose to a back three, so that rings the alarm bells for Ruben Amorim's visit. And Arsenal away, Villa will usually get a result, but it will be the hardest game that Villa have played all season.
Yeah.
So it's, I think I'd take 4.
Yeah,
I think I'd take 4.
I think one thing I have in my head is that Chelsea, when they played Arsenal at Stamford Bridge last week, were incredibly physical, and I feel like that might start to happen to Villa more and more as we become more of a target in a team that others look at and think, well, there's one way of stopping them: foul them.
Villa have been consistently fouled for the last 3 years, and it hasn't really stopped Villa, to be fair. And the great thing about having, Camara and Onana and Rodgers is that Villa can't be outmuscled anymore. Villa dominated Arsenal physically for 83 minutes on Saturday, and Arsenal are built to be the physically dominant team, to the point where people have genuinely criticised them for not being good enough at football for a title challenger, and really over-indexing on Declan Rice is physical and strong and fast. And so is this guy, and so is this guy, and they're playing 5 centre-backs and all that stuff. Villa have just outmuscled that team.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily something to be too worried about. The thing I'd be worried about at Stamford Bridge is it's one of those games where, like, where Villa turn up to Old Trafford and deer in the headlights. United starts so fast and the intensity is there. I think Chelsea do the same.
Right.
Chelsea they play so quick that it will be quite difficult, I think, to stem that. I think Villa usually have trouble with that at Stamford Bridge.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, but looking at the overall season, I really feel something exciting can happen this year. You feeling it?
Something good. Yeah, I think so. Look, a lot of what I went through in terms of the 3 sets of 5 games, with the 3 different versions of Villa. First one, defensively solid, creative 0. Second one, long shots FC. Third one, really creative, really threatening. Defense is caving in a little bit. What is the real Villa, and how many of those elements can they put together at the same time? It's really hard to work out how good this team is, because every element of it can function to a very high level, but at no point has it all been joined up together. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing, because everyone struggles to play well in the NFL, you'd say, in all 3 phases, but it kind of works here too. But what can Villa achieve if that actually happens? Like, who's better than Villa? How many teams are genuinely better than Villa if all 3 of those things can come together at the same time? I don't know. But can Villa actually put it together and show us? I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. But this version of Villa we're watching right now, like, should win the Europa League, right? Yeah. And it should be able to get into the top 5. The questions start to pile up in February and March. Like, where are you in the league in March by the time the round of 16 of the Europa League kicks in? Because I'm fairly confident that Villa are going to skip the playoff. And I would suspect there'll be a top 8 team, possibly top 2, but it'll be a top 8. Where does that leave you? What are your priorities? Is the league going so well that Thursday actually he gets shuffled to the side a bit? These are the questions that run circles in my brain every night before I go to sleep. Every day on the tube. And when people ask me, what do you think then? I go, I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's like, it depends. The answer is it depends.
Yeah, it's no, absolutely. But I mean, what a time to be a Villa fan, honestly. We're just living through something. It's just, watching things happening at this club that I think throughout our Villa sporting lives, it's been very, very few and far between. But Sam, honestly, I could sit here and talk to you, I think, for roughly the next 365 days, to the point where we would be midway through next season going, is Lamar Bogart going to get the Ballon d'Or? I mean, he's that good right now. But yeah, it's been fantastic chatting to you.
I'll just say this. We've been recording and speaking for 65 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
65 more minutes, and we've got more minutes in the tank than Harvey Elliott does for Villa.
Wow, right. Well, maybe we should keep going then. Go on. Wow, that is something else. He's going back in January, isn't he? He's surely.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, we solution, please. Solution, please.
That is that's the it's an odd one. But Sam, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I do all my talking on Blue Sky. So if you're on Blue Sky, I'm there. Tighe Football. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't post. And you can find me on ESPN. I probably do 2 features a week and a few other bits here and there. So wider football, a lot of it. Although I think if Villa beat West Ham this weekend, I will be asked to do a piece which is titled "Can Villa Challenge for the Title?" which will make my insides crawl. However, it will be a good piece. Just ignore the title.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much, Sam. It's been brilliant to chat to you. And until next time, up the mighty Villa.